Hello wonderful viewers, today is another episode of our class. In today's class, I'm going to take you thoroughly on indices. And first of all, I discovered that most people have issue with solving problem of indices without a proper foundation. In today's class, I'm going to take you on indices with proper foundation. First of all, we're going to start with the laws of indices. What are the laws of indices? Laws of what? Indices. There are many laws of indices, which when we come across in solving problem of indices, we will be able to tackle it very well if we get those law to our fingertips. First law of indices is multiplication law of indices. First law is multiplication law of what? Indices. Multiplication law of indices states that when you are multiplying two indices of the same base, you take the common base and add the powers. Example, if you have if you have x raised to the power of what? A times x times another x raised to the power of what? B. This law says we should what? Take the common base. Since the base is the same, take the common base, then we add the powers. That is very simple about multiplication law of indices. The second law of indices is division law of what? Indices. In the division law of indices, it states that when dividing two indices of the same base, you take the common base and what? Subtract the powers. Now if you have x raised to the power of what? B, A, divided by x raised to the power of B, this can be equal to x raised to the power of what? A minus B. Or in some cases, you have x divided by raised to the power of A divided by x raised to the power of what? B. It can also be written as what? X raised to the power of what? A minus B. It's still the same thing. Now, these are the common laws of indices that most people know. But there is also zero law of indices. The third law is zero law of indices. There is zero exponent. We can call it zero exponent or zero law. Zero law. Now, zero law of indices says that whenever a number is raised to the power of 0, that number is equals to 1. Whenever a number is raised to the power of 0, that number is equals to 1. That means if I say x raised to the power of 0 is equals to what? 1. That's as simple as that. Then another law of indices is what? Negative what? Index. Negative index. I call it negative what? Indices or negative index. Negative law. Now in negative law, maybe we have x raised to the power of what? Minus A. This can be written as what? 1 all over what? X raised to the power of what? A. This is the negative law of indices. Negative index. Now, in another case, still on negative indices, in some cases you have what? Let me say have y all over what? X raised to the power of what? Minus 1. This now can also be written as what? X raised to the power of what? Y. Some person will say, how? Why is it not that way? Let me explain. Now, in this case, how we arrive at this x raised to all over what y, we can say that now from this it can be written as like 1 all over what y all over x, and this can, by division of fraction, we have 1 all over 1 multiplied by what x all over what y to be equals to what x all over y. That is how we arrive at this point. Hope you are getting. If there's anything you don't understand, you can drop it on the comment section. I will attend to any of your questions. Let's continue. There is another law of indices that is very, very complicated in most cases. Now, in this law of indices, I can call it a bracket law of indices. I can call it bracket law of indices. I can call it bracket law of indices. Let me say bracket law. Bracket law. I can call it bracket law. Now, in this law of indices, if you have what x raised to the power of what, if you have x raised to the power of what a into bracket what exponential what b, this can be written as what x raised to the power of what a b. That is bracket law of indices. I call it bracket law of indices. Then the last law of indices, is fractional indices. Fractional index. Fractional index. Fractional index. Fractional law, or let me say fractional law. In this fractional law, we have what x raised to the power of what 1 all over what a. This will be equal to what a root of what x. A root of what x. Now, in another, still on this fractional indices, we can also have x raised to the power of what a all over what b. Now, in a case like this, the b becomes the root and what the a becomes the power. So this can also be written as what the b into what x is exponential what a. Those are the common laws of indices. So take your time and go through the laws of indices and get it to your fingertips, because it will be necessary for you in a application or solving problems on what indices. And do well to like, comment and share to your loved ones, and don't forget to hit the notification bell for more updates on indices. Thank you very much.